Hey, welcome to Diary 101 podcast. I am your host, Akakandelwa Kandepwe, also known as Aka. Makes me so happy to say that every week. On today, on the Diary 101 podcast, we are joined by an economics, a development strategist, and CEO of PRS 365. Through her work in research, data, impact measurement, she helps organizations make more informed decisions that drive sustainable development and lasting impact. So today, very excited, we explore her journey, the power of evidence-based leadership, and what it takes to create meaningful change through data. Today's guest is Esther Zulu. Hi, Esther.
Hi, Aka, and hi everyone listening.
How are you doing?
I'm good. It's a fairly good, not too cold morning today. I had a good run, so
Right.
yeah, energized for the day.
You're a runner. Oh, you are a morning person. How does it feel to be a morning person? Like, I wish I was, but I'm not.
Everyone should naturally be a morning person. I think morning people, we rise with the sun, but as soon as the sun starts setting, I tell you, my mind also starts to shut down. So yeah, I guess there are pros and cons.
Honestly, I am not a morning person, but I rise at 5:30. I just don't interact with the world that early. Like, I am not going to come outside and take a run and everything, but I would probably just be in my little morning routine, chilling. Because again, I think that when you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, you naturally become a morning person because you literally have to start work early. And if you don't do your morning routine, it means that you have a bad day. I have a bad day and I don't do my morning routine, like ish. So naturally, not naturally, forced by nature of occupation, I rise early these days.
Yeah.
How best can you describe yourself, Esther?
I think I'm very vanilla. I'm very pedantic with things. I like to have a routine, but at the same time, within my pedanticness, I can be spontaneous. I am also in between. I think I'm an ambivert. I think with the people that I already know, I can be very extroverted, but in new places, I can be very introverted. So that's one thing. And I think people fail to really recognize that about me, because when they catch me with people who I know, I'm very loud and I'll be very chatty, but catch me in a place where I've just arrived, and it takes me a while. But I think because of being an entrepreneur and always looking for business, I've learned to come out of my shell and get comfortable talking to people who I have just met. So I think those are a few things about myself.
That's so interesting. Taking key points that I could actually just relate to myself is, I love that you said you're an ambivert. I think a lot of us are that, but I just go like, guys, I'm an introvert. But I think a lot of people describe me as an ambivert. Like when I'm with my friends, you know it's me.
Yeah.
You definitely hear my voice. Like, you'll be like, that sounds like Aka. That energy. That's when I'm with my closest friends or family. Or when I'm working and I'm very energetic about my work. Or maybe I'm supposed to bring the energy. I'll fake it till I make it. For me, it doesn't necessarily have to be a new environment. When I just don't know anybody, I will be in my corner. And I like to joke around to say that I'm that person you find at an event who'll be first to get the food. Yeah, like I will be the first to get in line. Like, I have no shame when it comes to standing up and going to get food. I'll be the first to get food, and hopefully then I'll meet somebody in the queue. Then we can probably heat up a conversation about the food. Like, oh, maybe this is too hot. Have you ever tried this? Yeah, like I'm always
Yeah.
trying to find ways to start conversations. But again, being an entrepreneur, you kind of now have to learn to. It's no longer, you can't use that as an excuse, because then if you don't approach people, you don't make money.
Mm. True,
That's
true.
So tell me about PRS 365. How did it come about?
Okay, so PRS has been such an interesting journey. PRS is women owned, and it's also run by women. And we started in 2019. And this was the thought process behind this. So myself and two of my fellow co-founders, Natasha Chilundika and Edna Ngoma, we went to university together. And after university, I mean, in our final year, we kind of got hooked on the research bug because we were part of like a team, some students that were selected to run some research for Kansas State University. And so after that, I think career-wise, we all flirted with research. You know, we went into our individual career paths and did some research work here and there. And then at about 2017, 2018, we started to come together and do consultancies. Like we would get gigs and we would do consultancy work for different organizations. And we had our full-time jobs. And then our shared frustration at that point was that we had a lot of expatriates who were doing this type of research work, which is like impact focused research, you know, like impact evaluations and so on. And we had a lot of expatriates doing this work, but we also recognize that Zambians are very important in solutioning for our own problems. And also just the fact that even if you have an expatriate on doing some research work in Zambia, they would still hire like research assistants or research associates who are Zambian because they didn't have the context. They didn't get the context. And we got the context, but we also had the skills to lead the work. So that was one. We decided, why can't we do this on our own? The second thing was we also noticed that a lot of organizations, even now, tend to do research like as an afterthought. Like, oh, this is how we're going to implement the project. This is how we're going to implement our program. And then if we have money, or only 10% of the money we have, we're going to spend it on research. And even now, I think it should be the other way around. You should start with the research problem. What is it that we're trying to solve? Even if you are, whatever project, even in the private sector, whatever product you want to put on the market, you should start with assessing the need. You should start with data for you to then inform what you're doing. And so we decided, okay, let's try and form this organization that helps organizations with evidence so that they can improve their strategy implementation. We can help them to achieve the impact that they want to achieve. And I'll also say that by nature, we are patriotic. So we do want to solution for Zambia, but we want to also extend and solution for Africa. And we believe that the way to do that is through evidence. And so that's what we do at PRIS. We want organizations to be more organized efficiently and effectively by using evidence so that we can create social and economic impact. So that's how PRS was born, and that's how we started, and we've been in the game now for almost 7 years. We're going on 7 years, and yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. And we are working in all the social sectors, in health, in education, agriculture. We also work with the private sector, and very recently we've started to help organizations to also track and measure their environmental, social, and governance impact, because also that has become very important right now. It's like the new kid on the block. and there's a knowledge gap and capacity gap. And so we're helping organizations to really fill in those gaps. Yeah, so yeah, that's who we are and what we do.
I like that. You have the key element of research shouldn't be an afterthought, or if we have money remaining, we'll allocate the remaining money to it, or we'll just allocate 10%.
Mm-hmm.
I think your company is so much needed because when I was starting my own business, and honestly, I have gone through hoops and hoops, hoops and loops to just try to decide what it would be, and also just a business will flow and later on be its own person. There was not so much research on consulting companies in Zambia at the time.
Yeah.
Right? I'm an accounting graduate. I was an accounting student. One of the things I learned when I was a student was when you want to set up a business, start with what you have, like the skill sets you have, offer them and see if they're viable. And I was like, I am going to offer consulting services. What I don't know. And then when I was doing my research, there was not so much data. It was so frustrating. It was so frustrating because I'm like, then how am I supposed to make? So apart from like the top 5 consulting companies in the world, maybe also data from other companies, from other countries, when it came specifically to how the Zambian market was doing, there wasn't much.
Yeah.
So for you as a business that is in data and research, how is Zambia as a country progressing?
In terms of data, I think we still got a long way ahead, right? And part of this is just that I think part of it is a culture thing, because I think we have generally been poor at record keeping. And part of it is also that we are not very good at publishing the data that we have. And I get it, because for us, for many other developed countries that have data out there are ways to vet this data, right? There are ways to check accuracy, to do quality assurance on data, on the data that is published about a country or a specific sector in that country. I think at Zambia, we are yet to get there, but I think now, even with AI being widely used, we are trying to improve, but there's still a long road ahead, because even now, even with AI, right? Sometimes you'll be looking for specific information and you will prompt AI to give you a summary. And sometimes for Zambia specifically, it tends to be inaccurate. And this is because of the poor data that is out there. So national data, I know Zamstats does the national survey data, but I think it's worth having firms like ours and other organizations also that deal with data, that deal with research. There should be somewhere where there's a repository. You know, like one of the things I know when you're doing research work in Zambia is you need to apply for ethical clearance, right? And there are institutional review boards that review your work, your proposals, the questions you're proposing to ask people, and then they give you the ethical clearance. I think through that channel, there should be a way of asking or compelling organizations to submit this anonymized data. Of course, I think there are ethics around that as well. Usually, we are only able to share the data within the research team, but if the data is anonymized, I think you don't breach any ethics by sharing. But the problem is you'll find that organizations are very proprietary about their data. So you find we are doing work for a specific client and they don't want this data out there. So I think there has to be a way of compelling organizations to be able to put this data in a specific repository so that we can improve how things are. And this, even like the lack of access to data, has a huge bearing on decision making in the country. I'll give you an example, like CDF. if there was enough data around districts at constituency level, what is happening at the constituency, economic factors along each constituency, and all that, it will be much, much easier to manage the CDF fund. It wouldn't be a matter of people forming cooperatives and coming. It would be a matter of, okay, in this constituency, this is what is needed. So this is what we're tendering for. So even as you form cooperatives, it should be along these lines. Instead of like a kitchen sink kind of thing where because there's no data, we can't appropriately target, right? So that's just one example. But I think that it's a wider problem. Even with the councils, they could use data to make decisions about how they are giving permits. Let's say, like, one of the things that really irks me around the city is that there are so many around Lusaka, there are so many filling stations that are mushrooming everywhere. Along Mosotunya Road, for instance, just from Woodlands Roundabout to the Ring Road, we have about 4 filling stations in a stretch of a 3-kilometer. So if I was the council and I had some data around, I would know that, okay, we are not approving this one. Let it stretch. There should be a 10-kilometer stretch or 15-kilometer stretch or whatever it is. But I think sometimes the lack of data really impacts the decision making. Yeah.
That's so interesting that you and I have the same irk. Every single time I see a new filling station being built. Why, guys?
Yeah. And it's really sad because we could have a park. We could have like a small park or something. I don't know, but like it's all just shops and filling stations.
Like the average, it's so many filling stations. I don't even know how I can best articulate myself that I don't like it. But it's been an increase in filling stations, guys. Like, what's the logic? Like, what are we all missing? Should we all make filling stations? Like, maybe we don't know something. Anyway, so one thing I didn't know, but I think I noticed, was that yes, organizations are doing different research, but there's no way of us accessing that research because everybody says we own this data and we're going to keep this data. While in developed countries, I guess they put data out there for everybody's usage. I'm confused. Like, why are organizations holding on to their data that much? Is it for them to have a competitive advantage? Or it's for competitive advantage, I guess. But then, was she not developing at the rate at which developed nations are at? So what's the difference, and what are developed nations doing that we could learn from when it comes to data and publishing it so people can have access?
Yeah. So I think I think one of the things is maybe not that organizations even want to hold their data. It's just that no one has compelled them to submit the data. I know there's certain type of data that's very confidential because it speaks to like specific products or like the intellectual property rights, that could be breached. And I feel like those type of data can be kept more confidential, private. But there's data like we are doing a project for a specific client, maybe in Muchinga province, and we're collecting data around incomes and livelihoods and water and sanitation or whatever it is. I think that type of data, organizations should be compelled to submit it to like a national repository like ZAMSTATS, and ZAMSTATS should be able to use that data to just, publish it even, so that when you log in, you can see this data and you can have access. And I think this is one thing we've tried to do at PRS. We are in the process of developing a platform that actually shows all the data that we have, right? Because since 2019, at this point, we've got so much data, so many data sets. We have collected data for different projects around the whole country. And we think that this data can be useful for decision making, for new programs, for the government. And so we want, and for students as well who are doing research, right? And like you said, for people who want to come and set up in Zambia, they could find data on our platform. And so we are trying to put all this data in a platform and include some data analytics such that it's very easy to use. So I think there's just lack of compelling, like organizations to do this, but there's also a lack of appreciation of what data can do for us. And maybe that's the real thing, because people usually respond to pain points, right? Like if it's a big issue, if it's, it's something that there's a gap and we really need to fill this gap in order to be doing our work, is when they'll try to solution for it. And so I think there's a lack of appreciation on what good data can do for us as a country and what good data can do for decision making. And also maybe a knowledge gap on how to use data to make decisions. So I think it's like a combination of things. And I think this is the difference with other countries. In other countries, there's an appreciation of what data can do, right? If you're going to present something to your superior and you are campaigning for money or increased budget for marketing, you should be going there with data, right? To make your point, to make your case, not just going there with stories or anecdotes or whatever. But in Zambia, I think the stories, the anecdotes, who speaks louder is much more appreciated compared to the guy who will bring the data and say, look at the numbers. This is what's happening, except maybe in financial institutions. And so I think maybe that lack of appreciation in other countries is what compels them to actually make sure that they are collecting this data, that organizations submit this data, that places like the World Bank are able to publish this data for people to have access to. And I think maybe that's really the difference, the knowledge gap in how important data is and the use of data in decision making. So maybe that's where we need to start from, to encourage private organizations, public organizations to use data for their decision making. And I think as PRS, this is where we started. Like, how can we get organizations to think about using data as they make decisions? Yeah.
That's so interesting. You have really highlighted different things or different ways data could actually work for us as a country, which is important. And I know that we're not having these conversations a lot, but I know that now we are having these conversations. But then we're always reactive, not proactive. Mm-hmm. And one of my icks is my company is in the education sector, and I think there's so much data in it, but there's also no data, right? Because we have so many different trends coming up when it comes to education, different industries, what's actually happening on the market, and what's actually happening in universities. There's that gap, and everybody can see it. No one is doing anything about it. So my specific is, we all know that certain jobs or fields are going to reduce in hiring, and there's going to be a new trend because of technology and AI. There's going to be a new trend in new positions, in new fields that's coming up, but then we're still enrolling in the traditional career paths and not talking about the alternatives where the job market is shifting to. And in my head, I'm always like, isn't that we all can see what's happening in the local market and the international trends? Or maybe we're just used to having traditional career paths, because you could still have a traditional career path and still not find a job afterwards. But then universities still roll in those paths. Why do you think we don't acknowledge different trends that are coming up? especially in education, in terms of what the shift is and why we're not making fast decisions to follow the shift?
Yeah. That's a tough one. I feel like, one, I think, again, it goes back to using data for decision making. If you are in the Ministry of Education or in charge of curriculum development, you should be able to see that this is the trend and things are moving. And now I think what is really important is to teach people how to think and how to use information rather than to have them memorize information. And I think that if those things can be taken into account, then you have people who have a more dynamic system of how they change their curriculum, how they change the educational system. What I think is now, because everything seems so manual, that things move, the wheels turn slowly. So even if there's acknowledgement that things are changing worldwide, and we should also catch up with the trend so that we can make sure that the future people who are coming behind us are employable, and also that they can adapt to the way the world will be with AI and technology. Can we also change quickly? But I think that it's a slow process for Zambia, just because a lot of things are still manual. But at the same time, I'll give them credit, like the overhaul of the previous curriculum to the new one. When, for instance, I'm doing homework with my kids, I can see that there's a shift in how they're learning versus what we were learning, right? I can see that the topics they're learning, for instance, in science, are more current. Like my daughter is in first grade, and very recently we were doing homework, and the homework was about climate change. And so I was thinking to myself, like, okay, at least they are talking about things that are happening now, and they are teaching kids already from first grade what is climate change, what causes climate change, which is great. And even in mathematics, they are adopting new ways of teaching, because now we are not using sticks to add, for instance, we're using number bonds, right? And I've seen this also in developed countries, that they are using number bonds to teach rather than using sticks. So it's something that I had to learn myself as well, just because we were using sticks in my time. But yeah, so I do see that there are improvements that are being made with this new curriculum. But I still think that there's a huge gap, especially at higher institutions of learning. The way they teach in the higher institutions of learning is skewed towards making people memorize the content, whereas in developed countries, you're teaching people how to think, right? How to argue a point. And so I always tell people that, look, when I did my undergraduate, I did it at UNZA. I found it harder than when I did my master's, which I did in the US. Because when I did my master's, it wasn't about knowing line for line what the lecturer said. It was more about, can I tell back what the subject matter is, the broader subject matter, and can I argue my point, right? And so I think when you teach people like that, can you argue your point? Can you adapt? Can you be dynamic? It means that whatever is coming, whether it's AI today, whether it's technology tomorrow, whether it's whatever tomorrow, they can adapt. They can think. They can say, oh, okay, this AI that has come, how can it make me work smarter, right? And I think this is the difference. And I know people now are threatened by AI and saying AI will take jobs and whatever. While that is true for some tasks, it's not true for everything, because you still need to think. You still need a human to think things through and consider all the, like a holistic picture. And AI cannot do that, right? So I feel like, but it's because people are still stuck on just like doing things business as usual or doing memory work versus some critical thinking and analysis. And I think it's just because of the methods of teaching, especially in the higher institutions of learning. And then also our curriculum was backwards. But now I think with this new curriculum, things are bound to get better. Although even that, the implementation is still a problem because I know there are gaps there hasn't been teacher training for this new curriculum. They basically gave them the material. I also know that in some schools, the material has not yet been delivered. So I think the gaps in implementation sometimes are also what causes the challenges. And those gaps are caused by a number of different things for our country. Part of it also not just proper planning. For instance, this new curriculum, there should have been a proper implementation phase for it. Like, what do we do pre-implementation? Then we start to implement. But it's almost as if we just jumped in and then start to, work on the problems. So it's a number of different things. But again, I think at the core of all these challenges is that we are not using data to decide. We are not making objective decisions. Yeah.
I like that you highlighted a lot of the things that I also have been noticing, and that's with people, children in their pre-grade. Yes, the curriculum is very different. I look at what my sister is learning, and I'm like, I didn't know that existed. Till I was in university. I do know there are gaps, and maybe the implementation also comes with funding. So probably certain things don't go well on implementation phase because it's just not funded. And funding also relates that they didn't plan to fund it, or we didn't think it would cost us money the way it's costing us money. I don't know if that logic makes sense. Like, it's just an assumption, like, we're going to do this, but there's no thought of how are we going to pay for this, right? Yes, we're making this decision, but for us to implement a new curriculum in all schools in the country, how much is that going to cost us? And how many schools do we have? What does that really mean? And I also think, like you said, for me, I also believe the gap is with the teachers. There should be teacher training, at least even a platform where teachers can stay up to date with trends. That would be great. Or just even workshops in holidays every week, like 1 week in the holiday where teachers do go for teacher training. Could be a district, could be, probably districts are better. I know that will cost money, but also the gap is there because even if you have a new trend come in, but the same people are teaching it the same way, the mindset shift won't be there. So you want even the people implementing what you're saying, implement it in the way that you do, and it all just comes in budgeting for it. Like it's going to cost money. It literally all comes with money. But I do think at the core, we're in the right direction.
Yeah.
We're in the right direction. Compared to a few years ago, I think we're in the right direction, and I'm excited to see. I'm a long-term person, so I'm excited to see how this will play out in 10 years. Probably when I have kids. That's really in 10 years. I love that we've been talking about something I'm very passionate about, and you are, which is data, which is like a hot topic right now in our country, Zambia. Like a hot topic, we're having all these data protection acts, laws. Everybody is being very particular and sensitive about the data. I came across the Data Protection Act it's 2021, right? The Data Protection Act of 2021. And I did attend a workshop over it just to get a highlight. Met the Data Protection Commissioner, Fansine. I didn't know that existed in Zambia, but learning a lot when it comes to data as my line of work. What do you think about the act, and what are the things organizations should know, and what are the things the public should know about the act?
So I think that firstly, I think that it's good that there's actually a Data Protection Act. You know, because obviously people's data is out there, even our data is there. And I think that in the past, when this wasn't there, I think it made it a bit dangerous, right? Because then anyone, unless you have data privacy policy in your organization, then there's nothing really governing, people's data. But I also think that the Data Protection Act, I don't know who was in the development of I don't know who was developing the act itself, but it seems to me that a lot of it centers around personal data, storage and processing of personal data, like basically like what I'm doing on my phone and how that is processed and so on. And while it's good that we actually have that, I think it needs to go a little bit deeper. I think it needs to go a little bit deeper to all data, because it's not just about personal data. It's also about data that as research firms, as organizations, that data they collect, what regulations can be around that, and even as you go and do your data collection, what are the things that, of course, the ethical guidelines on doing research with human subjects, it has guidelines on the things you can ask or the things you can't ask, whatever. But I think even as a country, we should go deeper, right? It shouldn't just be about the digital environment. It should go to actually governing also how data is processed from research organizations and so on. And I know there are bodies like that. For instance, the National Health Research Authority, as a firm that's dealing in data, you need to be on data, and in the health sector, you need to be affiliated to them. And then now you also need to make sure that you are affiliated with this same Data Protection Act. But there's more work to be done, honestly. It's not very clear to me where our kind of data falls. To me, the act is more skewed on personal data, the information people share with each other, and of course, cyber crime or cyber security of your own personal information. But it needs to go a little bit deeper than that. Yeah, and I do think that there's also a need for more sensitization and awareness. For us as a firm that is dealing with data, we had to ourselves take the initiative to, find out more, read about this. But I think it would have also been good if there was more sensitization opportunities or awareness mechanisms for people to really understand what this Data Protection Act is about, and then also have information around how it affects them and affects their business and affects the public. But I think that there hasn't been much done in that regard.
Yeah, I have to agree. I do know that there is a conference. Yeah, there's a conference somewhere sometime in July, talking about data. I think it's such a big conference. And I think I've only come across the act twice. It's just passing. It's like a passing thought. Because there's no sensitization, or not so much sensitization like you mentioned. I am not that aware of it, but I own an organization that holds data. So how does that look like for us? So it's very interesting. But I also think that it's great, like you said. I like that we have an act. We could still work on it as time goes on, but we have a baseline of the act. I think I'm also just reading on it, trying to learn. Yeah. I'm just trying to understand the pros and cons, especially for a company also that holds data, very important for us to sensitize ourselves and try to understand that part. So for the general public, what advice would you give them concerning the act?
I think the first place would be to, also, the language in these acts. If you're not a lawyer, it's a bit difficult to even understand some of the language, right? Because but I think the first place would be to actually the first place would be to actually read upon it, try to see, and maybe even just use AI. Like, this would be a good use of AI, whether I'm using
I was about to
ChatGPT.
say that.
I mean, the app, sorry, not the app, the act is out there. It's, at least you know that you're not getting garbage in, garbage out, because the act is actually there, and you can simply download it and load it into your preferred AI, either ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Claude, whatever it is you're using. Ask it to summarize it for you. And then also prompt your AI and say, okay, I'm an organization doing XYZ business. How does this act apply to me? And then also check, as an individual working in Zambia or living in Zambia, how does this act apply to me? I think that would be a very good start. And then take it from there. Like, once you then have questions, next would be to try and figure out who you can actually address those questions to, which is, I think, a little bit harder. But I think that would be my advice. It's important to know, because I think it's not only for organizations that this act affects. I think it's also as individuals, right? Like, it also pertains to your own protection and your own, like, personal information that you put out there. So I think it's important for everybody to know. So that's what I would advise. Just use, this is one of the ways you can use AI.
I've loved learning about research and data, and learning about your journey and business. Very interested on how you went from an agriculture economics to mastering in economics, and then I do know how you came across and building your company because you were hooked on research. But how was that journey and the people that you took?
So that journey, it's a very interesting thing to build an organization in Zambia. Very challenging. And it's been very stretching. I'll tell you that. It's only in moments like this, when I'm talking to someone, that I can actually see how much I've been stretched and how much I've learned in this journey. I think when we went in, of course, when you're going into starting to build a business and your core education or background is not business, build management or something like that, you're going in with your technical skill, right? You're going in with a skill of, okay, I'm an economist, I'm an agriculture economics, I've studied economics, I've studied development, and I've worked in this research space, and I know my stuff. I know how to use statistical software. I know how to analyze data. I know how to write proposals. You're going in with all that technical skill, right? But you're not going with the business skill. You're not going with the skills of how do you actually organize and make sure that your business is sustainable. What strategy are you using to develop business? So all those things are things you're not going into. You're going in first with your technical skill. And so we've had to learn. We've had to learn so much on how to organize ourselves as a business, how to organize our operational model. How do we make sure that on the people side, things are going well, on the technical side, things are going well? So if you ask me today, 3/4 of my work has nothing to do with my technical skills anymore. 3/4 of my work has got to do with looking at the organization and strategy, strategizing on what are we doing, where are we going, how are we getting there. I like to call it the why we're doing what we're doing, because your why should always drive you, right? Why am I in this? We want to make social and economic impact. Okay. We also want to make money, right? Because obviously we're for profit. This is how, and I honestly believe private sector is what will drive this economy. It's what will change things around for Zambia. So anyone beginning a business should be in it to make money, and then also to do what they want to do, to have the impact that they want to have. Next, okay, we have our why. What are we doing, right? What's our strategy on how we get there? Then how? What are our resources and the people that we need? So for us, it's been such an interesting journey to learn all that. And yeah, I mean, one of the things I keep thinking to myself is one day I'll have a master class for like entrepreneurs just starting out and like talk about the real things, because Zambia is an incredibly difficult business environment to handle. I will tell you, it's been rough learning our tax system, navigating which taxes were applicable for, because look, you want to be a credible organization, right? You want to be credible, you want to be ethical, you want to do things with integrity. We don't want to avoid tax because we know that's how our country moves forward, right? But how do you navigate that? Small businesses in Zambia, I will always say this, are heavily and unfairly taxed. And navigating that tax system, how do you get the best out of that? We have organizations like these big franchises that come, even the mines, and they get tax concessions. And us as small businesses, we do not, unless you're a specific industry like solar or agribusiness or whatever. But if you're a service firm, trust me, there are no concessions. So how do we navigate that, but also have enough money to scale? How do we deal with accounting and cash flow? Because remember, when you're starting, you're a small business, so you are everything. You're the marketing manager, you're the CEO, right? Until you start to grow your team. So how are you doing all that? So it's been such an interesting journey. Also, how do you find business? When you are working in full-time employment or before you start your business, you think, oh, okay, I know some people. I've got networks, and these networks will help us. They will push us forward. But the challenge, it's challenging. People, Zambians, I'll say this one thing. We've had better luck where we get this piece of small work from an organization, and that organization keeps recommending us, right, to other organizations. But we have better luck with foreigners compared to Zambians. Zambians, I don't know why we have this attitude, and it's my personal mission to help any Zambians I can, whether it's setting up a business, whether it's recommendations, whether it's what. And I'm always having this conversation. One of my mentors, we had this conversation where he was telling me, like, why Jewish people succeed? It's because Jewish people continuously push each other. If a Jewish person does work for you, you are not happy, you're not going to badmouth them or say, I'm no longer working with you. You're going to just be honest and say, look, Aka, you did this work for me. I'm not happy with ABCD. You need to improve on this, but I will still give you business because I want you to succeed. And that's how they've been building themselves, But Zambians, we lack that. So we really need like a culture shift and attitude change, because we're the only ones who can work for Zambia. So yeah, and I mean, even other things apart from the tax system, the statutory requirements, like, the business environment is crazy. And then also because we're a predominantly import country, balancing foreign exchange rates with your revenues, operational costs, figuring out the model that works for your business. It's been such an interesting journey. And despite the challenges, I honestly wouldn't trade it, because I've learned so much. I've been stretched so much, and it's been great. On the other side, you have the technical side, which now every day new things are coming up. So you also need to keep track of that as you also balance managing the rest of the business. So yeah, a lot of things to unpack there, but ultimately it's very interesting.
It is very interesting. You were speaking, and I was like, that is me right now. That looks like my life. Honestly, I was at a ZRA meeting 2, 3 weeks ago, and then
Yeah.
they said, no, you're paying the wrong tax. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah. And no one will tell you this, by the way, when you're setting up. You don't even know. And I think it even just starts from your PACA registration. I think
Yeah,
anyone trying to start a business in Zambia, you really need to figure out what is the best model. Should I do a ownership? Should I be a partnership? Should I be an
yeah,
NGO? Should I be
yeah,
for profited but organized by shares? Like all those things have a bearing into how you operate your business, but no one is telling you that. They just tell you the options like, oh, you can do this, you can do that, but not necessarily what is best for your organization. But although I know now there are like some business development support firms, consultancy firms, which is really great, by the way. I'm an advocate for, even if someone is my competition, I feel like the cake is big enough for us, for all of us to
all
get
of
the
us,
piece.
yeah.
And so even if there's someone's my competition, I don't feel shy to build people because yeah, I mean if they are winning and if the Zambian is winning, Zambia is winning, right? So there are a number of business support, development support organizations that have sprung up, like Link Advisory. I think Prospero is still doing that, and I think from there you could get that type of advice. But like definitely when we were starting up, there was no business development support. Like it was just okay, how do we do this? Let's register, but how do we? At what point do you decide, okay, now we need a board of directors? Like there's just a lot. And I think, yeah, actually just talking to you about this has made me realize that I would be happy to be speaking to more people who want to start and, you know, like just chatting with them and giving them this
Yeah.
sort of information. Like, this is what I've been through, so you don't have to go through it. Do your research. Ask these questions. Come back if you have questions. Talk to this person. They will give you their advice so that they don't have to go through our bottlenecks, you know, our teething problems. They can start from like a much clearer space. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I'm glad that I'm very familiar with, somewhat very familiar with tax and ZRA with Packer because of my university experience. They were very particular when it came with Packer, so we did do exercises while you practice to register a company. So I knew that, and I did exercises on my different businesses. ZRA, I love tax. I am such a tax person. I always know what's going on behind anything. I have
Mm-hmm.
questions. I do have questions. I just don't think I'm mentally ready yet. Still compliant. But I
Yeah.
need to go revisit my taxes again,
Mm-hmm.
which I am not mentally ready for. But where you got me is just the navigating of when do you register and what do you register your company as, to now
Mm-hmm.
building a company. And when you have a company, it's no longer just about your technical skills or what you'd like to do. It's about everything else. That includes, if you
Mm-hmm.
now have employees, it's about cash flow, payroll, and everything in between. But you
Mm-hmm.
still have to make money, right? And this is
Yeah.
where I am as a person. Is
Yeah.
my days don't. I think I was complaining this to somebody. I was like, mostly my day has nothing to do with what I thought I would be doing.
Yeah.
am mainly running a business and putting out fires. Oh, this
Yeah.
is not going well,
Yeah.
which is hard because the business is so young, and I
Yeah.
still am the face to make money or need to talk to clients. So my business partner and I were having a conversation where I'm like, hey, I'm not overwhelmed, but I don't think I'm doing this to the best of our capacity, and we need somebody to come in and do this role so I can actually still run the business and bring more business, because I can't be the face, the runner, the implementer. Like it's not working out. But again, like you said, I think that's what makes business fun. You you cry a little bit more, but
Yeah.
you cry in the bathroom. But then it's really good for character building, eh? I always say what didn't
Very
find business
good.
was character building. Ish. And
Very,
I feel like
very
I have
good for
to.
character building because it's crazy. Like if you are going to run a business in Zambia, you should be ready. Like I feel like that's the first question I would ask. Like, how ready are you?
How
How
mentally
ready
stable
are
are you?
you? And then okay, let's chat. If you are ready, let's now have a conversation. Like, are you ready to have some gray hairs? Like I would tell you from 6 years ago to now, I developed some gray hairs. That's because
No, I
of
get it.
you're always thinking, you're always doing something, you're always trying something.
No, I actually get you. I am in this phase right now, and I'm like, you just don't get what I mean, but sure.
Yeah.
I'm at a point where, yeah. I think something also you talked about the Jewish people, right? How
Mm-hmm.
they, or other countries, even Indians, for example, how
Mm-hmm.
they work together a lot. I think my uncle and I always have this conversation a lot, because in a family, if you have small business, if you have different businesses and you're giving each other business, it means that your organization will grow. And actively, one of the things I enjoy to do is offer my services to my family businesses,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's for free. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
could do that for you. I like, I know somebody that knows somebody. Like, I could do that. And I see how literally in my family we do that a lot. We're like, oh, there's this thing we could do. Like, oh, there's that. Because we always believe in like keep the money in the family as much as you can. Right? Because
Mm-hmm.
then it means you're pumping into somebody's skill, you're believing in them, and they're
Yeah.
growing and
Yeah.
they're excelling. Yeah, I hope we could all do that a lot. I have no experience like you. I'll probably learn how the actual environment is soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so far I have to admit, like I really do have a good community of mentors.
That's
Sometimes
good.
I do hope, like, I wish that person would hook me up. But then even if you'd ask, they would say no, or they just would act like they didn't hear you. And
Mm.
then you're like, should I ask again? I'm like, no, let me move on. Like, if I ask 3 times and you pretend like you didn't hear me, then it's a no, right? So, yeah, I think I'm going to learn the hard lesson soon enough. Good for character building, I might add.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
What advice would you give to a younger Esther?
Oh, wow. Oh no, I've actually been seeing people post this thing where like write a letter to like your future self, or like what
Yeah.
letter would you write to your younger self? And I'm always like, what would I say to myself? I feel like maybe my biggest thing would be to trust my gut. Um, like don't second guess myself. I think that like in the thick of things when you are faced with, like for instance, when I pivoted into being PRIS full time, I was coming from a really great job that I really loved, and doing the same income kind of evidence for impact and everything. And it was really like a crossroads for me. Like, okay, do I jump into this new thing that does not have any security, because now you're your own bread and butter, very uncertain. You don't know how it will go, from this really great job where I have great colleagues. I love the work I'm doing. I'm learning. It's great pay, great working conditions. So it was really tough, but I made the decision to get into PRS, and I don't regret that decision. But in that moment, I think one of the things is I'm thinking, is this the right thing? So I think, and then I've had other moments like that in my life where I'm choosing between two paths, and I think I usually come out on the other side happy with the path that I chose. So I think it would be to trust my gut. And then also not to be scared of failure. I think one thing that has plagued me in my life is being an overachiever, being good at school, being academically smart. And I think then people expect you to do exceedingly well. I think it messes with your psyche a little bit. I mean, it's good that they think they have that expectation of you. It's good that they're encouraging you. But at the same time, it makes failure so much harder, right? When you perceive that you failed, it makes it so much harder because you're thinking, oh my gosh, like what happened? I've completely failed. What? But I think that when something fails and you need to pivot, it's an opportunity. There's so many opportunities there. First of all, you can look back and see how much you've learned. Secondly, you're looking forward and say, if I get this chance again, that's not what I'm going to do. And then thirdly, it's an adventure, like new doors, new things to navigate. But as long as you're stuck in the failure, it becomes so difficult to move forward. And then also it becomes difficult to try new things if you have fear of failure. So I think for me, that's one of the things I've had to overcome as I move forward. And I don't even know if I've overcome it yet. I think it's a work in progress. But like all things, I guess I work in progress. But yeah, one of my mentors again always tells me that once you master a specific lesson, another lesson pops up. So basically, there's no reaching, like there's no perfection. You're continuously just learning. So I think those are some of the things I'll tell my younger self. Like, don't be afraid of failure. Also trust your gut. And then also, a forever work in progress. There's no perfection. So you must just continue. Like, you learn this, you master this, the next thing will come. So, yeah.
I like that advice from your mentor that once you master one lesson, there's another one coming. I think it's the same with success. Once you reach a mountain, there's always going to be one you aspire to, but then there's going to be a point where you've reached your peak and you have to come down. Like if Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world, right? If you reach Mount Everest, there's no other mountain for you to to climb that will. Where would you climb Mount Everest anyway? But there's no other mountain that you can climb because then that's the peak. So it's either you enjoy you enjoy life as you climb as well, like you enjoy the view as you climb as much as you will enjoy the view up there. Also enjoying the view as you climb back up, because I think we always all have our peak and you can't be at the top forever. So it's really, I love that advice from your mentor.
Yeah.
What advice would you give a young woman that wants to start business or wants to get into business in Zambia? That would make you laugh. What advice would you give me? Give me, who's just getting into business full time.
Yeah. My advice would be do your research. Be very well informed. And I would be very specific. So be very well informed on what's your value proposition, right? What are you offering? What problem are you solving? What's your value add, right? Because that needs to be very clear, because that will then say who your customers are and how you're getting these customers and how sustainable your business can be. Because if it's something like you have a customer today but you don't have tomorrow, okay, then how will you continue your business? So be very clear about the value proposition and the solution that the problem that you're solving. Then do your research on registration, do your research on tax, do your research on any compliance requirements that are required of you. Then also decide, how do you want to be registered? Are you looking for funding? Are you looking to just be on your own? Yeah. So those are that's, in a nutshell, the advice I give. And have very, very important is clarity. When you have clarity of what you're doing, the steps to follow become way, way, way easier than when you're not sure. So yeah, I think that's the advice I would give.
I love that advice. I do feel like it sounds very generic, so I would like you to speak to me, speak to me directly. So you're a woman that built a career, transitioned into entrepreneurship, and you have children. What does that really mean in your life when you are running a business and building your career and then building a family? How does that look like? I am just in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
I am just running a business. Like, what are some of the things I should expect and not expect? Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm still navigating this as well. We have this discussion with my friends all the time. They are like in senior management positions, and you're juggling work, you're juggling home, you're juggling children, you're juggling a husband. Like, how do you do that? And my one thing is that no one should fool us into thinking we can have it all. I think Michelle Obama said that in one of her interviews, and I agree completely. You can't have it all the time. But what you can do is try and develop a system. So I think personally, I'm a systems person. And I think in general, that's how I run my life. And also get all the help you can get. I know people you can't do it all on your own. So if you can afford it, get the help you can get. At home, you can delegate some things. So what I would tell someone, a young person who's getting into this and has to juggle all these roles, get a paper and write your list. What can you delegate? And what can't you delegate? And don't be overly ambitious. I know we would like to do it all the time. I would like to be the one doing all the school runs with my kids. I would like to be the one making their meals and feeding them or bathing them or whatever it is. But I can't. I can't physically do it. And also for the things that I'm there, I really want to be there, like present, wholly present, mentally, physically, and that means that certain things I cannot do. Then even at work, I think when I took on this role, so previously, before I took on this role as CEO in 2024, but before taking on this role, I was a director for research in the organization. So once I took on this role, I found myself still wanting to do a lot of technical work. Now, one thing is, as you rise in your career, whether you are a co-founder, you're a founder of your own business, you're the lead in your own organization, or you're rising to senior management, as you rise, you will do less technical work. So first, you need to accept that. Next, you need to know how to delegate, right? Which work really requires your attention, which work can be delegated to somebody else in the organization. You need to learn how to prioritize. Which work do you need to do now, right now? Which work can wait for tomorrow? So I think developing such systems is what really, really helps me. And then even at home, you need to write that list. Like, this I can absolutely do, this I can't absolutely do. So if you can get extra help, you can get someone to help you at home with the kids. I advocate for that, because then you have someone who you trust, who can help you with your kids, and then you choose which activities that you'll be fully present for. And trust me, when I, at my former organization, one of the senior staff, she was the COO at the time, I had this discussion with her. And what she told me is that as children, as they are growing, right, if you delegate even 30 minutes to an hour of your day where you have full-time presence with your kid, that means so much, and it's enough, right? You can't be with them the whole day anyway, they're at school, but delegate some time that like you're fully, wholly present. That's enough. So personally, that's what I try to do. And I try to do it like at home. At home, if I designate this time, this hour, these 2 hours, I'm going to be fully present. So yeah, you need to develop systems that are working around you. Make a schedule. I know in the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned that I had gone for a run. Exercise is an important part of my routine because not just for the physical side, I think it really helps me mentally. So I schedule time for that. But again, I'm the type of person who is very routine oriented, very systems oriented. But I find that this really, really helps because then you don't have to think about things. Once you've developed a system, you have your system in place. Okay, at home, this is the person who does this. At work, this is the person who does this. You are not wasting your energy or time thinking, okay, today, who's going to do this? Because that has already been sorted out. So I feel like that's really the advice I would give. You need to organize your life. What does my life look like right now? What is important that I need to give time to? And how do I make the time? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. What are some of the trends you are excited about when it comes to AI, research, and data in Africa?
I think the main thing is that AI is making our work a lot easier. I think that, of course, it's still a garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. So I don't expect that AI can do the work. I think in Africa, in Zambia, you still need to get data from people. But I think that AI makes it much, much easier to process this data, to process the data, to analyze the data, which reducing the time it takes to do this, I think is great because then you are spending less time, and time is money. You're spending less time doing the thinking on how you're going to analyze this data because then you have a tool that can help you to do it, and you're spending more time on plotting strategy based on this analysis. So I think that makes it very exciting, and I'm really excited to see what young people can do with AI, right? Like I've seen a lot of things that people who are, I think the other week I saw something about like a science fair, but this kid was using AI to program water or something like that. So I'm really excited to see what people can do, especially younger people. I think this is their time. When I say younger people, I'm only, I'm in my late 30s now. I'll be 38 later this year. And when I think younger people, I'm thinking people who are like 20s. No, when I speak to my mentors, they also call me a younger person. But yeah, I'm
You're
just
thinking of
excited to
me.
see what they
You're
come
thinking of
up.
me.
Yes,
It's okay.
I'm thinking of you. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what you guys come up with, changing the way of doing things. And I think for me, that's the major thing with AI. I think AI enables us to be faster. Technology enables us to be faster. It expands our reach. So what can we do with that? What information, what data can we gather that to help us to be faster, to move quicker, to be more efficient and effective? Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I really do like that. And just a side comment on you saying younger people and you're not that old is
Yeah.
when I say younger people and someone goes like, Aka, relax. You are young. And I'm like, I'm thinking about younger people. Aka, who? So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm speaking about my peers. So I have to
Yeah.
actually learn to communicate differently because when I say younger people, they're like looking at me and they're like, how old do you think you are,
You
young
are.
person?
Yeah.
So, no, thank you so much, Esther. I have enjoyed this conversation. I would like to give you an opportunity to ask me a question or two.
Okay. So I think I'm interested in knowing like your own career goal, right? Like, what do you see yourself doing, like in the next, in utopia, right? Like, if everything was okay and it was the ideal situation, what would you be doing with your time?
Okay, I could really answer this in phases. Career
Mm-hmm.
wise, um, or business wise, I do see myself by 2035 So that's like 10 years from now, owning the biggest data company in Africa, where
Okay.
we have data that we need to make more informed decisions about education, health, business. I like I mentioned earlier when we said this conversation, like that's been my biggest struggle, was there's not so much information about certain things in Zambia or in Africa. And just having the power of owning your own data, it means you control your narrative. I listened to this.
Yeah.
I listened to this sometime, and they said when you hear them say that, for example, maybe Zambia isn't, and Zambia is investable already, right? Right now, like it's at its peak, especially after the elections. But at a certain point, of like, oh no, don't invest in Zambia. And here's the data why. So people
Yeah.
had our data, they controlled the narrative of how the world sees Zambia. But then when you own your own data, you control the narrative and you control the story. And I
Yeah.
think why data is important is that you want to be able to control your story, you want to control your narrative, and you also want to control people's perception about you. So I think that Africa is bankable, and we need to start banking in ourselves. And we also now need to control our narrative as a continent. So just having a company that is based in Zambia and owns data around Africa, and then we control the narrative that we send to the world and how we also how they speak to you and how they can interact with us, how they interact with our markets. And I also think that I'm very passionate about data as well, because then we can actually know what our trends are. Yes, they are global trends, but what are the trends in Africa? What are the actual trends in Zambia? Maybe AI is kicking, but we need more doctors, because we don't have so and so districts with no hospitals, right? AI is trending, but we still need traditional teachers, because this number of districts don't have schools yet, so we still need to take traditional teachers there before we jump ahead to implementing technology to it, right? Like, I'm such a believer that if you don't have the most basic stuff, like your basic needs, and when you think of a country, basic needs are schools, hospitals or clinics, and roads, and power and network, right? If you don't have those
Yeah.
basic needs, it means that it's hard for technology to reach those people. Because why are you giving me technology when I don't have a school to take my children to, when I don't have a clinic to go to? Like me, I just want a clinic. You get what I mean? So I'm such a basic person, and I think that being able to own our data, to use it in the way we want to use it ethically, is like one of my goals. And yeah, I think in that still same time frame, I think I would be at peak of my career. I could choose to leave the company or not, but I'll probably do that in
Yeah.
my 40s. Probably do that in my 40s to explore other stuff. I love to travel, and I think I'm such a big person when it comes to controlling my time. I love the work that I do, but I also like to control my time and how it works. I think I'm not a system person because I'm not very detail oriented, but I do have systems around me. And I know that for me to grow as a person, I do need systems. And at that point in my life, I'll probably have a family and kids, maybe, hopefully. So probably would want to dedicate most of my some time to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so creating, so for me it's like work hard now so you could free up time and see how you would want
Okay.
to spend your time with your family and friends at that time. I love to travel, so I'll
That's good.
probably be traveling a lot, still working but traveling, and
Traveling.
maybe a more flexible style, because then the company can run without me and I can really just chill and enjoy the money. So yeah, if everything all goes well, I think even if it doesn't, that's still the plan. Like either
Okay.
way, that's still the plan. But overall, I also hope I can own a foundation. I think Bill Gates is such an inspiration to me. Build a company that can fund your other activities. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I would own a foundation, and really, I love that we talk about literacy a lot, right? Like why reading is important. I think I would like to own a foundation that talks about reading, but also focuses on financial literacy especially in rural areas, sometimes we think that just because it's such a trend in an urban area, it's the same thing in the most rural places. So just taking financial literacy to rural places and an opportunity-based foundation where if you see a brilliant young person, taking them to school so they could be great and they could champion their community. I haven't really figured out what my foundation will be about, but I'll probably start it in my 40s. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll probably start it in my 40s. Yeah, so if everything goes well or not, that's how my life will look like.
Okay. That's really ambitious and interesting. But I think it's good to be ambitious. It's good to be ambitious because, yeah, like why limit yourself? So, yeah, I
I'm
think
aiming
you
for
are
the
already on
moon.
a good start.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I think you can achieve anything you want to really. So, just keep going.
Yeah, no, literally, I mean for the moon, so that when I fall on the surface of the, not on the clouds of the earth, not on the ground. I think that's one thing. Aim higher, so even when you fall, your failure doesn't feel like failure. It still feels like you achieved most of what you wanted. And yeah, but I
Yeah.
still think I want to achieve all I want. Yeah, but life will humble me. I tell myself that again. But anyway. Well, Esther, we're coming to the end of this episode. It's been fun. That was such a good question, by the way. It's been fun. I loved learning about your work and also just picking your brain when it comes to data and research and technology. Yeah, it really just brought me to life. I was like, I'm gonna pick your brain on this, Esther. So I loved every minute. My last question to you is, what do you look forward to?
What do I look forward to? In general,
In
what do you mean?
general. In general.
In general, what do I look forward to? It's a bit at the end of the day. I need more specifics.
You could choose to be specific, but you could just give a general overview of what you look forward to this week, today, the year.
Okay.
Like it really just depends on what you feel like
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
I guess I'm always looking forward to a good book in general. I love to read fiction.
Oh, me too.
I don't like reading serious. I call them serious books, like anything that's like motivation. I don't mind biographies or memoirs,
Yeah.
but anything that's like on borders on self-improvement or motivation, it has to come really highly recommended.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I also just like to navigate my own life and ask people as I go and learn my own lessons. But yeah,
Yeah.
anyway. So I really, really like to read fiction. Yeah, that really I say I've been to so many places all over the world because of a good book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm always looking forward to a good book. In general, I'm always looking forward to I think I'm looking forward to the time after elections. I
Me
feel
too.
like the pause, like it feels like the economy or business is on pause because we are all
Yeah.
waiting to see what happens. So I'm looking forward to September. Yeah. I'm looking forward to September, the afterwards, because then I think things will start moving again. I'm always also looking forward to like new challenges, new opportunities to grow. Yeah. So in general, I think, yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Like you, I love a good book, but
Mm-hmm.
I love all of them. I just don't read biographies or
Uh-huh.
memoirs. Like I'm not
Uh-huh.
really interested to read someone's life. I haven't
Mm-hmm.
gotten into that yet. I think I have a memoir by Kalema Harris, and I still haven't read it. I need to get a gift
Mm-hmm.
from my brother. But
Mm-hmm.
I do motivation books. I do fiction. Like fiction
Yeah.
helps me sleep. But then you said
Yeah.
something that I said when I first went to the US, or just even my ambition was I traveled to places before I went there, right? I was
Mm-hmm.
at the University of Kansas for like 6 weeks, and I know you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned it earlier in our chat. Um, I went there
Mm-hmm.
When I went there with a book, like I
Mm-hmm.
imagined it, and
Yeah.
2 3 years later I did go to that university, even if it was just
Yeah.
for a short while. Like I did visit DC and I watched it on movies and I read about it in
Mm-hmm.
books and everything. So yeah, you travel the world through books, and I think yeah, it's what makes the world possible, is just being able
True.
to
And you also get to understand other people's culture. Like I've learned
yeah.
so much about different cultures just from books. So yeah,
Well,
I
Esther, this has been fun.
yes, it has actually been fun. And like I mentioned at some point, like sometimes you think you don't have anything to share until you
Yeah.
actually start talking to someone. Then you're like, oh wait, I think I actually have information to share. So
I
that
think I have
always gets me. So it's been fun realizing that I can share some information.
I am waiting for your masterclass, Esther. Waiting for your masterclass. I think even the listeners
One
are
day,
waiting
one
for
day.
the masterclass of how to start in Zambia, right? I
Yeah.
can help you organize it. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Esther.
I mean, we can talk about that sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. So see, the audience have something to look forward to
to
after this.
look forward
Thank you
to.
so much, Esther. It's been a pleasure hosting you and listening to you speak all your worth of knowledge. I have learned a lot. I have reflected. And I was like, you know what? I should have also had an Esther, so I could have just come and asked a few questions before I got into business. So really, on our behalf and just the audience, thank you so much. And if you're also listening, I hope you enjoyed this conversation, right? So many nuggets, so many things we mentioned you can read about. Use ChatGPT on, and just ask yourselves these serious questions if they affect you. And if you love this episode, please share it to your friend or somebody else listening. But yeah, from Esther and I, thank you so much, and it's goodbye for now.